Hello everyone, in this lecture we are going to discuss virtual function or virtual base function. Virtual function is a member function that is declared within base class and redefined by derived class. So let us see the program. Here I am having member function, so inside that I am printing some message. Now this function is redefined in derived 1 and derived 2. So derived 1 is derived from base class, derived 2 is also derived from base class. Now I am creating one base pointer and creating object of derived 1 as drv1 and object of derived 2 as drv2. Now if I write base pointer equals to and drv1, so here base pointer is pointing to object of derived 1. So if I write base pointer arrow operator show, next I am assigning address of derived 2 to base pointer and calling base pointer arrow show method. Let us execute this code. It is calling show member function of base class, though we have assigned address of derived 1 and derived 2 and we are calling show method. Rather than calling derived 1 and derived 2, it is calling base class. So for this reason we need virtual base function. So we will make this function virtual by just writing virtual keyword preceding to this member function. So virtual function means it is existing in appearance but not in reality. We have just written virtual keyword before the base member function. Let us execute this code. It is calling derived 1 and derived 2 because this member function will behave as virtual to derived 1 and derived 2. We have to make this function virtual because all three functions are having same name and runtime compiler cannot decide which function to call, so it by default calls base class function. But by making it virtual, now it is not in reality, it will be virtual for derived 1 and derived 2. So let us discuss polymorphism. Polymorphism means one name and many form. So there are two types of polymorphism, compile time and runtime. In compile time we already learned function overloading, in that functions are holding same name but different definition. Operator overloading, in that one operator can be used to perform more than one task. Now here runtime polymorphism, it is virtual base functions or virtual functions because in base class and derived class both class having same name, that is method overriding, and it decide runtime which function to call using pointer. So virtual base function is a runtime polymorphism. Both base class and derived class have same function name and base class pointer is assigned address to derived class, then pointer will execute the base class function. We have seen this in our program. After making virtual function, the compiler will determine which function to call runtime. So here is the diagram that is representing the virtual function concept. Here I am having pointer of base class and I am assigning address of derived class. So if I call pointer arrow show, it will call show method of derived rather than base class function. Same way it is calling here show of derived 2 rather than calling base class. So when function is made virtual, C++ determines which function to use at runtime using pointer variable. Let us see some of the rules of virtual function. The virtual functions must be member of any class. They cannot be static members. They are accessed by using object pointers only. A virtual function cannot be friend to another class, and virtual function in base class must be defined even though it may not be used. Suppose you are not defining this virtual base function over here and execute this code. It is throwing some error because class base has no member named so in your base class virtual function must be defined even though it may not be used. Now this point leads to another concept, that is pure virtual function. Pure virtual function is a virtual function that has no definition within the base class. That means here I am having class shape and it is deriving class rectangle, square and circle, and all three classes having method draw. Now I am not providing any definition to this virtual function. So this virtual function without definition is called pure virtual function. So it will be a normal virtual function, but if you are not writing anything inside this definition, then it will convert it to pure virtual function. Let us see some of the characteristics of pure virtual function. A pure virtual function means do nothing function. That means we are just going to create only template or blank function, and derived class will implement the definition. We can say empty function. A pure virtual function has no definition relative to the base class. Programmers have to redefine pure virtual function in derived class because it has no definition in base class. A class containing pure virtual function cannot be used to create any direct objects of its own. That means if you are having class with pure function, you cannot create object of that class. This type of class is called abstract class. So here is the syntax of pure virtual function. Either you can write virtual then your function name equals to 0, or virtual your function and empty definition. Now let us see what is abstract class. A class that contains at least one pure virtual function is called abstract class. You cannot create objects of an abstract class, but you can create pointers and references of an abstract class. Let us see program for that. Here I am having class shape, and I have created one virtual function. By assigning 0 value, it will be converted to pure virtual function. And if this class is containing a pure virtual function, it is called abstract class. Now I am having class square, that is derived from shape, and class circle, that is derived from shape as well. Inside square I am having one parameter as constructor to assign value, and one method, that is calculate area. Same way circle having one constructor and method calculate area. Now here in both class calculate area have different definition. So I can create pure virtual function, then I can define it according to my use. So first of all I am creating one object of class shape here. I am compiling the code. It is throwing error, cannot declare variable s to be abstract type shape. As we have seen that you cannot create objects of abstract class, but you can create pointers and references to an abstract class. So let us create a pointer. Now I am creating object of class square with argument, let's say 5.5, because I am calling parameter as constructor over here. Next I am creating object of class circle C with argument 6.5. Now I am assigning address of object S to pointer, and through pointer I am calling calculate area. Calculate area function will return some float value. So let us display it directly, cout, and I am providing new line. Same way I am assigning address of object C and calling same function over here. Let us execute this code. So it is executing first calculate area of square and then calculate area of circle. So this is the way how pure virtual function works. Thank you.